Hi, my name's Sophie and I'm a speech and language therapist who works at Communicate. Today I'm going to be talking about using Dough to support your child's speech and language communication skills. For preschool children, you could use things like Playdough, but we might also want to extend that a little bit for the older ones and start making their own dough. Okay? So to begin, I thought that we could use the Play-Doh and really get them feeling those textures and think about those words that you could be using to describe the dough and how they're using it. So rolling the dough, okay, pulling the dough and making it into a sausage, so giving that commentary whilst they're playing with it. Oh, you're rolling the purple dough. Okay, and also giving them the choice. So do you want the blue dough, or do you want the purple dough? Okay, and using a bit of Makaton as well. So having that choice is quite nice. You could use cutters, okay, when you're playing with the dough and talking about the different things that they're making with vocabulary. So like this one's a fish and a cat. Okay, so that's really nice because that will help them develop their vocabulary about animals. And then also maybe shapes as well. If they made different shapes, you could talk about that as well. You could also get them to challenge them a bit. You could say to them, oh, can you make me a long sausage or a short sausage? But show them first, just to obviously help them a bit along the way. Next, we could look at making dough. So it's really easy, plain white flour and some water. And you could ask the children to find the items they need first. So find the wooden spoon, or let's go and find a bowl. And then also once you've made the dough, you could then again offer them a choice of colours, okay, and that's really nice. So, and then obviously then you could mix the colours together and find out what two colours make together, and that's another talking point. For older primary children, you could make things like salt dough. So you could give them longer instructions. So before you make the dough, go and wash your hands, and you could use before and after, or first and then, just to make the instructions a bit longer. Salt dough is really good because you've got the dough when it's all flexible, and obviously you can make shapes out of it, and then with either drying it or baking it, then they harden, so the activity actually is longer and requires them to have more attention to the activity. And then obviously then you can paint your dough. So once you've made your shapes, you could use obviously a knife or a cutter. Once you've made the shapes, then you could obviously talk about, oh, what are you making and why, asking those why questions, and then obviously how are you going to decorate it, and then once obviously you've got that dough and it's hardened, you can decorate it in all sorts of ways. Obviously with paint, you could put sprinkles over them, obviously making sure they don't eat them, and also you could talk to them about, oh, let's make some characters. So you could make some characters from their favourite book. So I'm making like a little mouse. And then obviously once they're set, then you can use them in a little scene, and then they can maybe act out the scene with their little salt dough characters, which is really nice. And then that's something to keep because they last for quite a long time. So if they're kept in like a little box, they will last. And finally, with secondary age children, you could use things like bread dough. So you could have, if you've got a group of children at home, you could assign roles for each child. So one child can knead the bread, another child can use the bread to make things into shapes and certain things like that. So with the bread as well, you could talk about the texture. So is it gooey, or has it risen? So has it got bubbles in it? And the flour, how it falls and how it's nice and soft. So with this dough, I was going to put it into 2 different types of loaves. One for making a loaf and one for making a focaccia bread. So again, you could talk about what kind of ingredients you might want on your focaccia bread and what it might look like before and after. Okay, so that's nice, put that in there. And then this one, you could talk about the shape of the tins. Obviously this one's going in a round tin, and I've got to stretch it, okay, and then poke it, which is always the fun part. And you can really use that vocabulary. Oh, it's sticky, springy, stretchy, making it flat. Okay, and all those things that you're doing during the making, like the measuring, they're all things that obviously the children with their food technology language will be learning, hopefully anyway, whilst you're doing it all. And then obviously adding different ingredients. So this one I want to put some olive oil on. And then maybe some herbs, so just experiment. They might want to try different things on top of their bread. And oh, what's it going to taste like? Oh, I wonder if it's going to be a bit sour or a bit sweet. You might want to put like onions or a bit of salt, a bit of pepper. And really experimenting, thinking about, oh, what's it going to look like at the end, and that will all help with their narrative of retelling. Okay, so what do you think is going to happen next to it? So all those nice questions you could be asking them throughout. And then during the process, you could be taking pictures of them. So then once all the bread's been made, then you can actually sort those pictures back into the right order, and then that will enable them to sequence the story of making the bread, which is quite nice. And even you could put that into like a scrapbook for them to retell. So that's my 2 loaves ready to go. Enjoy making all your dough.